So when you do any research degree, whether it's like a master's degree or a PhD, or you're in academia, you're in your head a lot. A huge portion of what we do is very much in our head. We're thinking about different ideas. We're thinking about, how the world works. But on the negative side of that, we also are dwelling and thinking about different things that are perhaps not positive for us. We all have to deal with these emotions from thinking that are both depleting, as well as they don't really help us out that well, right? And so how do you actually deal with that, with being in your head all the time? So I'm going to point this out right now, is that nobody is good at this, right? Like almost everybody that I ever talk to and have a conversation with is that they are all struggling with the academic game. They can't figure it out. Now, there's a few people that they seem like they have it all put together, right? And that's the important thing to know, is that there's people have a shell, right? And we've got our own selves inside, and then they have a shell. Well, the shell changes depending on who those people are, right? So some people are really naturally really good at sort of projecting that they have it all together, and that they're not a mess inside, right? And then there's other people that have like a thinner shell that, they just show themselves, and they can't, it's harder to sort of show themselves, or harder for them to regulate that outside shell. And so it's important to remember, when you look around, is that everybody is dealing with their own crap. Everybody is dealing with things in their head. And from my experience, it's almost always the same stuff, right? That you feel like you're not good enough. You often feel overwhelmed. You often feel really stressed out. There's all sorts of things that happen. So I'm going to be honest, yesterday I was sick as a dog, like could not get out of bed, and I still get up and I do this kind of stuff. I still want to get back to work. Tried to work yesterday. It was hard to do that, but then that is driven by my own insecurities of the fact that I'm not good enough, and the rest of the world perceives me as being not, as basically, that the rest of the world perceives me as a pile of crap, right? And that is deeply rooted in all of us that are doing any sort of research degree. And what is going on there? Why is that going on? It's largely because we're dealing with something that has a really long time horizon, right? Imagine the way that I sort of imagine research and development activities, or writing things and doing research activities. It's like a big flywheel. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, a term flywheel, but it's this term that you would use a long time ago, and people still sort of have ideas about using flywheel, to almost create a perpetual motion machine. So it's this big, huge, heavy rock, basically, or something that's really heavy, and it's a wheel, and it's super hard to get going, and it's really slow, and it just doesn't work very well at the beginning, right? And you're going to expend a whole bunch of resources to get it going. But then once it gets going, that flywheel keeps going and keeps spinning quite a long time. Right, so this analogy is very similar to what we actually do, is that we have to push up a mountain for a very, very long time. And the problem is like, even with the flywheel, you're getting feedback all the time of how you're doing, what all these kind of things. But often when you're doing a PhD, or you're doing a research degree, or you're in academia, nobody knows how they're doing, right? They're being assessed. But those assessments are so far out, right? Like anything to do with research productivity, anybody that knows this, unless they play the game, they realize it's a game and it's a total farce, right? So it is this uphill battle of pushing towards something for a long time, of actually getting there. And then once you actually get there, it sort of works for you. But the problem is, it's a 30-year to 40-year journey of trying to get to some place with no feedback, right? And our mind plays tricks on us. We think, we're not good enough. We think that, we're pathetic. We think that the rest of the world is doing better than us, like all of these kind of things. In fact, we're just doing different things, right? You could imagine all of us doing uniquely different things. And the more uniquely different those things are, the more of an uphill battle you actually have. And the more creative you actually are, the more of a battle you're going to have in the world around you. And so you have to have this sense of confidence. And this is, I'm coming back to how do you actually deal with this, right? So how do you have this sort of sense of sensibility, I guess, or calmness deep down inside right here? Well, frankly, you got to realize you don't, right? Like everybody is feeling the same way. Everybody has these sort of emotions and all those kind of things. But then the second thing, you just walk your life and not worry about the rest of it. So I've been thinking about a term that would be good for this, and it's the dome of positivity, right? This is where you would create a dome in your, both in your head, where you just have that positivity, like I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, and I do this every day. And then as well, you create within that dome, you reach out to people that are going to be your allies. Now, I know in the research game, there's not a lot of allies out there. There really isn't, right? But you can find them. There are good people around that will help you out and they'll be allies. It's not people that you probably think that are going to be your allies often. And you have to realize that there are really good people out there that will be supportive and try to do good things for you. And that's where you have to simply just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to do my thing. And even if you don't find anybody like that, right, you know that lots of people are in that situation, they deal with it. You walk forward, right? You take those steps and you think that I can do this. I am a good person inside, and that's the only thing that matters. And I'm going to disassociate from the whole environment around me and not pay attention to it. And I know what's right and true and just, and I'm just going to keep doing those things over and over and over again. I think about, like, there's a lot of scholars that you see that you're like, why aren't they getting more recognition? They should be really, and it's not me, I'm not talking about me. I'm thinking about other people. I'm like, why don't they get more recognition? They're actually really impressive human beings. And there's all sorts of reasons for that. And the thing is, you can't fix that, right? If you're part of that, you can't fix that. There's nothing you could do to change the environment, and there's lots of really unfair things. Everybody knows about these things, right? And that's where all these sort of myths and rumors everybody talks about in the whole research game of who did what, and we all know that kind of stuff, right? And you just simply have to know that you're gonna walk a good line and be yourself and be a caring, loving individual. I think here's the other thing. Another thing I want to point out is that yes, there are biological factors on why we like ruminate, or like some of us ruminate more than others. I've talked about this openly before on this channel. I have ADD, so that's like a side effect. I ruminate a lot. But also it's your surroundings, right? Like how you grew up or who you were with. And if you didn't have that sort of positive, like you could do this kind of thing, like at least intermittently, it's hard to do this, right? And I just want you to remember to create this for yourself. You don't need other people around you, and you could start having that positive mindset in your head where you're just like, I'm just gonna do this. I'm okay with who I am, and I can walk forward, and I can keep walking forward. And yes, nobody is gonna be supportive. And the reason they're not going to be supportive is not that they don't care often. It's just that they can't. There's no thing that they can do. They don't have sort of the decision authority. So you just have to simply go forward and be yourself. And, just be you and be a positive version of you going forward. No matter how you feel, what's going on, right? Like if you're sick as a dog, hey, you know what? Take your break, but then get back into the swing of things and just just see it as you being you, and you're being a good person as you're doing this. And just do that every day. I know you can do this, and that's it. That's all you got to say in your head, and create that dome of positivity, whatever that looks like for you, and however you might actually do that. All right, take care, and have a wonderful day.